Adrenals and sleep problems. Do they have anything to do with each other? Well, I'm going to explain. Hey, I'm Dr. Ekberg with Wellness for Life, and if you'd like to truly master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything. So a lot of people have stress and a lot of people have sleep problems. So we're going to talk about one mechanism that is very, very commonly involved with that. Adrenals, what do? Well, your adrenal gland sits on top of the kidney, right about in here, but in the back. And it is the gland that responds to stress. So when your brain detects that there's something urgent that we have to defend ourselves or deal with, then it signals to the adrenals to increase hormones for energy production so that we have more energy available to deal with that. And the energy comes from, the short-term energy comes from two things, from adrenaline that increases blood pressure, heart rate, vasoconstriction, and the second one is from cortisol, which is also a stress hormone produced by the adrenal gland that raises blood sugar. Because if we need fast energy, blood sugar is the fastest way to get that for an emergency situation. The other thing to understand when it comes to sleep, as cortisol relates to sleep, is that the sleep hormone is called melatonin, and it is released, it's secreted by your pineal gland that sits right about in the middle of your head right there. It's a tiny, tiny little thing like the tip of your pinky finger. But it's very important because melatonin is what allows you to go to sleep. It regulates your sleep cycle. And cortisol and melatonin are directly opposed to each other, meaning cortisol will turn off melatonin and vice versa, but cortisol is always going to have the upper hand because it responds to stress. And whenever we have stress, then there is no time, there is no second option to delay. Whenever we have stress, we have to act on it because if we don't, we might not get a second chance. So cortisol helps regulate your blood sugar, and it does that during the night also. So cortisol is supposed to be the lowest when you go to sleep because presumably you have fed yourself during the day, so your blood sugar is high and your cortisol is low because it's not needed to produce blood sugar, and because cortisol is low, it allows your melatonin to be high and put you to sleep. Then during the night, your blood sugar drops because you're not eating, and now the body has to create blood sugar from other sources, and cortisol is the signaling molecule that does that. So cortisol is going to rise through the night until you get ready to wake up in the morning. Then it's going to be at its highest because it's maintained blood sugar through the night. The longer you go without eating, the more cortisol is needed to bring that blood sugar up. Then when you wake up in the morning, cortisol at its highest, which means it opposes melatonin the most, so your melatonin is the lowest and you wake up. It's a beautiful system. Then during the day when you have opportunities to feed yourself, the cortisol is supposed to decline. It's supposed to drop during the day and then until it's at its lowest level around bedtime, and this cycle starts all over. The problem now is that we don't have stable blood sugar anymore in our society because we have introduced too many refined foods, too much sugar, too much carbohydrate, grains and pasta and all those things that stimulate, that trigger blood sugar. When our blood sugar is high, then we trigger a lot of insulin, so blood sugar comes crashing down and it overshoots, and we create these roller coasters of blood sugar. And whenever it's at a low, whenever we have a valley, that's called hypoglycemia, and guess what? Now the body releases cortisol because your blood sugar is low. And whenever it's low, that's an emergency, it's really important, it's stress. So as long as we have the ability to feed ourselves during the day, and if we eat the right things, then our blood sugar is going to be stable. So cortisol is not really supposed to be much of an issue during the day as far as regulating blood sugar. But when we create a blood sugar roller coaster, we get these episodes of hypoglycemia where we don't have enough blood sugar and the body has to release cortisol. And the more that happens during the day, throughout the day, the more we fatigue the adrenal gland. It's like a horse that it's pulling the plow in the field and it's getting really tired, and we need to give it some rest, but we got these important things to get through, so we just keep whipping the horse until it's just totally fatigued. And that's what we're doing to the adrenals as well when we keep demanding cortisol during the day. So the more fatigued the adrenals are and the more we invoke cortisol during the day, the more irregular our cortisol rhythms are going to be. So if we have unstable blood sugar, so that blood sugar really starts crashing throughout the night, now the body has to do a burst of cortisol during the night, and it turns off the melatonin and we wake up. So a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night because of blood sugar imbalances. The other factor, of course, is when the cortisol starts becoming unregulated, then this curve that's supposed to be nice and predictable starts becoming very random and haphazard. And anytime that we get a blood sugar drop and a cortisol spike, we tend to wake up. The long-term solution, of course, is to stabilize blood sugar. Stop eating refined foods and processed foods and sugar and grain and pasta and donuts and all those things, because that's what sets up this vicious cycle in the first place. Then once you eat real food and you have some stable blood sugar, then it's a great idea to start doing some relaxation practice. And we have some other videos on that, but we're not going to get too much into detail because that's a whole other topic. We just wanted to talk about how the adrenals and cortisol relate to the sleep problems that a lot of people have. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please let me know down below. I'll try to answer as best I can. And we can also make additional videos on these topics if there's something that you'd like to have more clarity about. If you're new to this channel and you enjoy this sort of content, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Thank you.